My name is Sally Bernard, an artist, author, and spiritual experiencer. Welcome to Call Me Zena, a true story into the spiritual realms. Join me as I sit and discuss the journey of self-discovery and awakening with the help of my spirit guides. It's time to trust your intuition. This is your inner knowings. Through questions and points of conversation, I can help others feel empowered. With the ability to touch people's past lives, I help others connect and not feel alone. Sit with me and call in live, 888-994-4995. Hi, good afternoon, everybody. We have a great show today. I'm going to open it up with a poem, but first of all, let me introduce my guest again, who is going to be my author on Call Me Zena, Lynn Everard. Hello, Lynn.
Hi, Sally.
Nice to see you again sitting in that chair. I'm going to open up with a poem again. I just picked them at random, which I wrote actually in 2009. I picked this one somewhere in time. Where have we been for so long? I want to return. I have been lost in time. I am waking up. I love this remembrance. I feel so light. Do not leave me. Every day is a new memory of days that are and days that will appear as if in a dream. I want to see, hear, and feel you, my love. I am but a small sparkle of a place that we call Earth, one of many places. This one is so dense. We learn in time to break through the net and journey towards our home. We still have many things to learn. I am blessed, for I have chosen to remember, little by little, for it is not happening all at once. I am getting tired and yet so awake. What a miracle. Thank you so much. And I call it, and thank Zena, who is my higher self, that told me how to write it, and this was in 2009. I had no idea what I was writing, so I found that very intriguing today in 2023, that I was being able to do that. I just want to give people hope to know that there is so much more that we don't understand. Thank you. Okay, so let's open up, or we can have a little chat, whatever comes our way. We'll see. I never know what's going to happen, so let's try and see what happens.
Yeah, well, we've learned in our work together on on your book, but I'm slowly being talked into the idea of it being our book, that each of us has our own way of communicating and our own way of being able to pull that information from ourselves. And for you, what works best is being asked questions. And so it's not just how you do the show, but it's really how you do probably a lot of things in your life.
Yes, and you know, it brings home very much is the introduction that I have in my show, because I have to think about it. I'm not asked the question. It doesn't go as smoothly. I just want to say that, and I'm sure that viewers have probably seen that. But the moment that we are asked, or I'm asked a question, it's a totally different feeling. I am being channeled. I mean, there may be people that can say, well, how is that possible? I don't even know, but I know that I get the answers. I have no idea what anyone's going to ask me. I don't want to know, and yet I'm able to give those answers. So my only explanation is my guides are talking to me. So we've discussed this many times, and we'll go from here and see what questions we have that I can answer.
Well, it's really such a fascinating experience, because we have to be open and not have these preconceived thoughts or preconceived notions or these hard beliefs that can't be worked through, in order to really let those things come from our soul, right?
Absolutely.
In order to express them, or the collection of souls even.
I totally agree with you, and I feel that, and I know in my particular case, I have to have an open mind, because if I start trying to understand how this is happening, my mind is getting in the way. And I write that in my poetry too, which I didn't know what I was writing, but it rings so true to me today. If I start thinking, which I do in the beginning of my show, it doesn't flow as easily. So my advice, if people are, I mean, I can only say by example that I can tell you what's happening to me. I'm not special in any way, and yet I keep an open mind. Many, many people are able to do this, but we don't understand it. So if I can give advice to anybody, keep an open mind. You'll be surprised what can happen.
And it's also the power of being able to ask open-minded questions, right? Because that's how we discover new things, is by being willing to ask a question.
Absolutely. And I used to do this with my girlfriend before I had the show, who lived in Melbourne Beach. And we used to do this for many hours, like twice or three times a week. But I'm only as good as the question that I'm asked. And that's very important. Am I able to give the answer? Yes, somehow I can give that answer. But the question is equally as important, as you know. So as we're writing the book,
Yes.
we've started a different kind of, let's say, twist on our book here, which I say ours because we are going to continue doing this book together. So I don't know if you would like to elaborate a little bit more on
yeah,
that.
so as an author coach, I've long held this belief that my name can't appear anywhere on the book, that if my name is there, somehow it's not the true, authentic voice of the person who's writing the book. But what do you do when you run into a situation where you realize you've written a book with this person before, and so writing a book with them is not a new thing, and it doesn't require you to go and be something that you're not. So in our case, we discovered that we had written a book before, together before, a long, long time ago, in another lifetime.
Right,
Right?
right, absolutely.
And the thing that's so amazing about this is that we both, that idea, that recollection hit us both in the exact same moment.
It did, and that was the twist on us writing this new book. It's not a new book, but it gave us so many more ideas, because again, we're only as good, I'm only as good as the questions that you ask me. So when we sat down the other day to have a discussion on our book here, we decided that you gave me a few things to choose from. So I chose past lives. And this is how it all came about. We started to go into in detail with the questions that you were asking me, I was able to answer. And then I'm looking at you, Lynn. How is this possible? But it felt so real, didn't it?
Yes.
So we're going
Yes.
to definitely incorporate that now in the book that we're writing. And I said, well, the book is you and I. I can't do this without you asking me the questions, just like on the show. So that's the twist to our book. I'm really excited, and hopefully in the next few months we'll have this.
Yeah, it changes so much about it, right? It's almost like we're probably about 3/4 of the way through the journey when we discover it's a brand new journey.
Exactly, yes. And you know what, I would love to, we're going to continue this conversation, but I just want to hear from maybe the two people sitting here in the audience, if they have any questions or anything they'd like to ask us, maybe pertaining to this or anything else, and then we'll continue with the discussion.
Actually, I had a question that pertains to people writing books or getting together, and they give you that look, like, do I know you? Have we met? And then as you're having a conversation with these people, there are stories, and you start saying, I think the same way, or, I had a similar occurrence, or on and on. How do you bring up, if you meet somebody, not my way, because the way I do it is kind of strange, but how do you introduce yourself and say, something, I had a vision, without sounding like you're coming on to a person? It could be a male or a female, right? It doesn't make a difference. How do you pursue that? How do you say these things so that you can get the ball rolling and maybe see where it leads?
Okay, my immediate reaction to that question is that if you feel you want to say something, try not to think how they are going to feel. This is what I'm feeling that they're telling me. Say it. What can the worst thing that can happen? They can look at you like you're crazy, but that's okay. But on the other, maybe it isn't okay, but on the other hand, they may be a question that they needed to hear, and perhaps they'd been thinking about it a little while back, and you're bringing validation to what they were thinking about, and then continue the conversation. I think that the latter of what I just said will happen, because I don't believe in coincidences. So if you meet someone and you have this feeling that you want to express something to them, do it. It's okay. It's more acceptable today than it was.
And the two of you have had stories where this has occurred? It's happened to you?
Well, yes, actually. Well, we're in a safer environment because we're writing the book, and I know a little bit about
But
Lynn.
this
as
is
he does.
different. I'm talking about outside of this particular circle.
Right, that's why I said we're in a safer environment here in the cafe. However, still, I mean, do it in a tactful way, Freddie. You have to do it little by little. Maybe feel that person out to see what, they may express no desire to talk about what you're feeling. But on the other hand, they may say to you, I'm a little more interested. Feel them out a little bit, but don't let that opportunity go away. I feel that it's important to have that opportunity because it may be of help to that other person and also to yourself.
And you may just be planting a seed.
Yes,
right?
exactly.
That they'll start to think about it and and maybe go into that level of memory that they hadn't even accessed before.
Exactly. I couldn't have said it better, Lynn. You're absolutely right. So if that does happen, nothing in my world is coincidental. Now, that person may not be receptive, and you will feel that. So, okay, as I said, you're taking a little bit of a chance. We're not here in the studio because they know where I'm coming from, as you knew, and I know where you're coming from. But it goes beyond here, outside, into the outside world. It doesn't stop. It's always continual. So feel free to say what you feel.
People are writing in, what's the difference between working really hard and overworking yourself and damaging your mental health?
Okay, well, again, and I talk a lot about balance. The balance part of this is really important. If you feel that you're working and you're getting really tired and your health is going downhill, then you need to question yourself, I'm doing this too much. I mean, there is such a thing, and I found this out too, that we have people that they call themselves workaholics. They can't stop. Well, in my mind, I mean, yes, they may be making a lot of money and you can't really tell someone to stop working, but there is a balance here. There's a balance. And if you can feel that balance, we get little signs by actually through our health. Sometimes we're getting very tired or we get headaches or whatever it is, we will feel that. So then it's time sometimes to look at what you're doing. Unfortunately, with myself, I've fallen a few times, and I think that's my key to say, well, take this a little bit slower so that I can't do it when I've fallen. I understand that today, and I'm not going to have any more falls, hopefully.
Do you think there are any positives about being overly sensitive?
Well, that's a difficult question. Yes, there are. I mean, as long as it doesn't, I am oversensitive in certain subjects, and I feel myself, I feel the positivity because I am an empath, so I can feel people. But I also can get more upset sometimes with a situation, but because I'm aware of that, I can't let it get to me that much. So the positives are that you are able to feel that. The downside is that you can get oversensitive and it can affect you very badly. So you need that balance again, which I always talk about, is balance. So you have to weigh the situation up. If someone's talking to you and you're becoming very upset about it, then you may need to stop the conversation at that point.
It could be too that perhaps with the sensitivity, perhaps sometimes there goes with this idea of overthinking, right? So it's not, being sensitive or overly sensitive is okay, but what do you do with it after that, right? What do you do with that sensitivity when it shows up?
Exactly. So we have to pace ourselves in so many ways. I mean, you can get overexcited about something too, which I do sometimes, but I'm not getting the whole situation that way because I'm out of, I'm not going to say control, but I'm out of my comfort zone. Either way, there's that balance. That's why balance to me makes a lot of sense. Just take a little bit of both sides and then continue.
Sally, how do you protect yourself against triggers of things in the past?
Well, that's not easy. However, I'm very aware of this today. And I'm also, which is a topic that I try to, if someone asks me something and I know that many years ago, maybe whatever they're talking about was something that happened to me, I try not to get too involved. I kind of know my triggers today where I might get upset, but I'm also very much, which brings into what I'm actually feeling very much these days, which we had discussed about staying in our now. I never really understood that. So we don't want to get too caught up in a situation that happened even a couple of days ago, because we don't want to bring that to us right now. So be aware, if you can, of certain things that you know that are your triggers, and try in a way to look at it. Observe the situation. That's what I feel that I'm being told. Observe it. And maybe sometimes you don't always want to change the subject, but maybe go with how you're feeling now. You don't want to bring it into your now. So be aware of your triggers. Be aware of them.
How do we overcome them? How do people overcome triggers? When you know you're aware, you know that's coming, you try to get through it.
Okay. It's not easy. It's not easy, and I still have triggers that I know that happened to me, many things in the past, but I bring it, I'm learning more and more today, actually, of not wanting to bring this into my now, because we have only, and I'm really understanding this, we only have this moment to make our next now. So why do I want to bring something that might have been very dramatic into my life? And we all have that, we have certain things, to bring those feelings, because we feel those feelings as if it was happening now, into my now. So I try to look at it, observe it, and put it away again, and then maybe change the subject. It's not easy, and it's taken me up until the last few weeks, which we were discussing, to understand that. But I don't want to bring the hurt of things that have happened to me and certain triggers that will trigger it off. Maybe someone's given me a conversation of something that happened to them that's happened to me. I feel that I have to look at it as if I'm observing that whole situation. That's very important, actually, to try to understand that, as if it wasn't you, it's somebody else, and you don't want to bring it into your now at this point. Does that make sense to you? That's my guide. They always say, does that make sense? If it's
somebody else, right? And we're just trying not to do it.
Yes, you look
Take
at
it
it
in.
as an observer. It can still be you, but it's something that happened, as if in a dream. You're reconnecting yourself to something, but you're dreaming it. So you're looking at it as if it was not you. And that's the best way to try to overcome that. Because why are you going to relive a situation that was horrible, let's say, because usually triggers something that wasn't pleasant, and you bringing it into your actual moment now? You're going to feel those feelings. So look on it as if it was somebody else, or it was a movie that you saw. If that helps, it will help you to do that, actually. Look at it as a movie that you saw.
Sally, do you feel like a trigger can sometimes be an invitation to heal something within or to let it go? And then if that's the case, does the same kind of event, when you feel like that you're not being triggered as much, is that a sign that you've been healing it or dealing with it?
When the trigger is not as bad, yes. I'm being channeled this. I wouldn't, it's difficult. However, you can go with it, but the only way that you're not going to feel those feelings is to look at it as if it was a movie. There's something that happened. We also get triggers from past lives, which we've found out. Sometimes, it's not always bad. We can have really good, pleasant memories. But it's how we take it into our now that's important. Be aware that this situation, good or bad, is not happening at this particular moment, because you're going to trigger something else that can happen at this moment, and now you're having a bad now, if that makes sense, you know?
Do you think the triggers are, I want to go on with what Lynn said,
Okay.
past experiences or a past life situation that we need to learn to deal with in this present lifetime?
Okay, yes, and that's also what I truly believe, because we have a karma that we do bring in certain things that we need to work out in our now. But we can work it out differently if we see that, if we feel that. We don't want to experience what we experienced in this lifetime or in another lifetime, which we may not remember, obviously, and have those bad feelings. Let's look at it that we can change that situation. A lot of these triggers are actually given to us to change our situation and circumstances in this particular life from where we're going from here on in. So yes, we will continually get those feelings or the same scenario, but it's how we look at it today and how we handle it. So we learn from that, because I truly believe that what happens, that we can, unless we settle that whole thing, and it could be a person, it could be a place, it could be a thing, that will come into our life, but we don't want to carry it on, not just in this lifetime, into next lifetimes, which I believe in. I don't expect everyone to understand or even believe that, but I truly do believe that. So we will bring the same scenario back. Let's get rid of it in a nice way, if it's bad. If it's a nice thing, let's carry on with it.
Let's let them go.
Yeah.
They write in, it seems like you're very positive most of the time. How do you handle situations that might get you frustrated?
Well, I'm still human, and I do get frustration, but the main thing is that I'm aware of it today. I never used to be. As a child or as a young adult, I would be more frustrated. But today, I actually, one saying that I have, and it does help me, is how important is this in the big picture? So whatever I may be frustrated about, I'm still going to feel it. I'm not completely there. But I say to myself, how important is this? Is it that important to be feeling so bad? And that helps me.
What about things you can't control? Other people have opinions, and you can overcome. I believe what Lynn is saying. Triggers are meant as a learning tool, because if you can overcome those situations, that's an inward overcome. But other people sometimes will create scenarios or things that appear to be real and aren't. How do you sort of fix that? Do you move on from that? How do you work that?
It's difficult to answer that in a way, because again, I can feel, if it's out of my control, I have to realize that this is out of my control. I can't do too much about it. If there's something that's going on in my life and then someone is criticizing me and it's out of my control, I have to let it go. There are situations where you just have to let it go, because that's that person. And in a way, if you think that you're going to try and control someone because you want to change the situation for yourself, that's not the best thing, because they're also going through on their journey. It's up to them. If it's out of our control, it's out of our control. It's very difficult. It's very difficult. And I understand that, because we can't control other people. I can't control, I am who I am. And if you don't like my show or whatever, that's fine. Does it hurt me sometimes when I talk about probably giving messages to people and they don't understand it? But that's okay. They're on their journey. I can only go by what's happened to me. And there are certain things, and I'm understanding that there's nothing I can do about it.
But then you control your feelings towards that scenario, yeah?
You do, because that's in my control. So whatever that scenario is, I can only do what I can do about that. I may try to make it better, but making it better might not be what that person wants. So it's half a dozen of one and six of the other, if that makes sense. There's only so much I can do or that other person can do. So we have to sometimes just let it go.
You have a question?
I do have a question.
Yes.
Hi, how are you? All right,
I'm
big
good. How are
fan.
you?
Congratulations on your wedding.
Thank you very much.
I just found your book on eBay, so I should be getting it by the end of the month. I think it's coming from across the pond, honestly. It was a hard find, but I found it.
Well, the thing is, it's probably out of production, because Lynn and I are actually working on a newer version of that book, which is going to be different. So I had said, and I guess it came about, let's take this book out of production till the new one will be available, which will be in a few months. But enjoy it.
Thank you very much. Okay, so my question is about spirit guides.
Okay.
And I've had two really incredible experiences, and the last one was probably about 6 months ago. I was having a Reiki healing, and I really had a connection. But how do I get that all the time? I call them the voices in my head. I can't quiet myself enough unless somebody's talking me through a meditation. So how can I connect better or learn to quiet down a little more?
Okay, there are many ways to do it. I tune in. I didn't understand how I can do that, but I don't do a lot of meditation in the beginning. But I also know that I have to, as you just asked me the question, I have to have that question, and they're readily available for me to give the answer. So just take time to listen. Your guides are all around you. So just accept that and go with your first thought, which will now continue, and you'll find that it'll happen. They say practice makes perfect. I'm not saying that I'm perfect or we're going to be perfect, but practice definitely helps you. The more you do it, the more that you'll be able to do more. So stop, listen. Well, I'm not saying if you're driving a car if it happens, but I think they're pretty good as far as that goes. They don't want to put us into danger. So it's maybe, I don't meditate a lot, but I would say if you want to meditate, you will hear them. But take note of it. They're all around you, and I feel that very much right now.
Thank you very much. Thank you. That was my question.
Great. Okay, we're opening up for more. I think this.
Another one. Is motivation created or is it found? And how can I motivate my mind? This is from Josh. How can I motivate my mind and body to create an art piece when I'm feeling blah?
Well, actually, and this may sound crazy, but that's the time to do it, when you're feeling blah. Okay, I was going through a lot when I started creating my art, but it took me into what I can only call another experience on this world, because I didn't know, but I obviously had to be somewhere. This is some of my art. I had never been able to paint. When I finished, and it may be many hours later, whatever was bothering me when I first started had absolutely gone. And I was feeling fantastic because I guess I was getting motivated by spirit to do what I felt that I needed to do, which was paint. So my answer to that question is, if you're feeling blah, continue. Do something that you like. And I know, Josh, that there are many things that you like to do. So just go into what makes you feel happy. You're getting help at that point, and continue. And whatever it was can dissipate, can go. Not always, but be aware that it can help you. Definitely will help you, actually.
How do we as people overcome spiritual deprivation?
Okay, the answer to that is, by deprivation, you mean like so much that you're not understanding, or? Because that has a different meaning to me. Can you elaborate? I know it's not your question, Dawn, but can you elaborate a little bit on
I'm
that?
wondering if he means people don't find enough spirituality in their
Okay.
day-to-day life.
Yeah, that's what I was going to interpret it as. Okay, just if you feel that it's quieten your mind. That's the first thing that they're telling me. Quieten your mind. And if there's something that you want, believe in yourself. Believe that you can achieve it. Be motivated by yourself. Motivate yourself. And eventually all these answers will start to come to you little by little. So you can overcome this. I'm not special, and I say this many, many times. We all have the opportunity to listen. We are all guided, but we don't listen because we've been told this is crazy, that because we don't necessarily see somebody, that it's not real. How are we here? A lot of these things don't make sense, but we have to believe it, and you'll feel that you'll begin to open up so much more to the spiritual world. That certainly happened to me. It happened later in life, but I've had some amazing things happen to me that there's no way that we could explain this. It's not coincidence. So open up your mind, be aware that there's more, and then it's little by little you'll start to feel it.
I was asking you before the show, when you look back at your life and all your experiences, would you change anything that you went through?
Yes, and I love that question because I've had it good and I've had it bad. No, I wouldn't change either. I lost a lot, I gained a lot. It's who I am today. And to bring Lynn into this a little bit, because we're discussing our new book at this point, all these situations, because I'm going back into a lot of the things that happened to me. And my answer is, it happened. It's making me stronger. So I feel that I want to give this message. When you're going through a hard time, it's hard to believe that things are going to be corrected, but you come out of it. I can only go by example, a lot stronger than you were when you first went into it. Do you agree with that, Lynn?
Yeah, I think what's really important is that you understand what made you you, which is partially a collection of your life experiences, some good and some not so good. And when you can share that, it's really valuable to help your reader and your audience get to know you. But it's one thing to recount it and share it, it's another thing to stay stuck in it, right? And so your journey is that you've been through a lot of things that we talk about in your book, in the book, but you didn't stay stuck in any of them. Mm-hmm. It was a process of you experienced it, you took the lesson, you moved on to be open to whatever was next in your personal development and growth.
That's a perfect answer, yes. And we don't, obviously, we're all human here, and we don't see that at the time that it's happening, but it might be the next day, it could be 4 or 5 years from now, and you say, oh, you know what? I needed to experience that, as bad as it could have been. But whatever it is, try to forgive yourself for how you may have acted. Realize that there is reasons for these things. And again, obviously, I believe in past lives, so we bring forth from another life sometimes, which we call karma, but we have free will. We don't necessarily have to go through it, but we bring these situations and circumstances to ourselves in order to heal ourselves, which could have been 3 or 4 lifetimes from now. But take it, I can't say take it lightly, but when you begin to understand that, you might see the reasons that you're going through these bad times. And good. Sometimes we have it good for a long time. That's why my positivity here, I preach, because it's so important in a situation to try and see positivity even in a bad situation.
And it's also important that we understand that without those not so good experiences, we wouldn't have the contrast in our lives to appreciate the good when it shows up.
Absolutely.
It would all look alike, and the good stuff would show up, and we wouldn't know the difference, and we'd say, well, that's just more bad stuff.
Totally
right?
agree, because I always talk about balance. And even if everything was white, we wouldn't understand black. And it makes so much sense. It takes a while for that to sink in. But we've got to have opposites, bad and good. But the idea, and this is what my guide used to talk to me about, who was here, Aldo, is that you do that straight line. You go through the middle of that. You take the bad, you take the good. But as long as you don't get too wrapped up in either side, actually, just continue with that. Like a stream, you know, you can go one way or the other. Continue to let it flow. And you'll see good things happen. It has happened to me. And again, I'm not special. I just began to understand this. Yeah, we're going to just stop for a commercial for a few minutes. I'll see you back on the other side of the commercial. Don't go anywhere. Thank you.
A true story, Call Me Zena, is the telling of Sally Bernard. Born in London, England at the end of the Second World War, she came to the U.S. in 1979. A mother of 2 and grandmother of 4, she settled in Florida and worked in real estate. While going through a difficult time in her life, she was admitted into a hospital overnight in December of 2005. While settling back into her life, she began having vivid dreams and documenting them. By the 3rd dream, a lady gave her a message to draw. With no artistic background or interest in art or history, Sally listened to her dreams and grabbed paper and crayons. Today, she has over 150 pieces of inspiring art and poetry. This book follows her journey and interpretations of these messages. She describes in detail how she's able to astral project and who she has met along her travels, including her spirit guides. This book will show you how anything is possible with an open mind. These events have changed Sally's life's direction, and this book will show you how to change yours. Purchase Call Me Zena on Amazon today.
This world, this life, this illusion. What is going on, we ask? What is happening? Why not take time and see what is happening? This world as we know it, it seems so real and yet so far away from where we've come. Corruption, greed, anger, power, revenge. Please wake up. We can change what is around us. How, we may ask? Learn to go back to where we were. Then we will have the clues. Then we can change and go forward. Please take the time. Do not fall into the game which we have put upon ourselves. We can change. We can make a difference. We have the power, each and every one of us. Go in peace. Go with love. Go as one. Zena. You have been watching Call Me Zena with your host, Sally Bernard. As an artist, author, and spiritual experiencer, know that you could always seek me out for resources. Visit artbysallybernard.com today. Now, back to the show. Hi, we're back. Okay, questions. I need questions. Okay.
And if anybody's watching, I love my job. I really do love my job. But when you're so good at your job, you get to be good at other people's jobs. Do you see other opportunities for me coming up?
Yes, I do. Because, you know, positivity feeds positivity. And you started off by saying you love your job, which is wonderful, because many people don't say that. And then it continues and it goes downhill for people. But because you have this great positive, what you're saying is so positive, it will continue and lead you to many, many other opportunities. Definitely. You will have your choice. Right now, where you are is great for you. And it's feeding that positivity. Continue. I see good things happening because of that.
I like that. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Sally, there was a period in my life, personal in my life, and I've been divorced twice. And I saw a movie over the weekend that explains the position of the person opposite of this deal. And they were supposedly the best couple in the city. You know, that they had this whole relationship they're going and everything else. And sometimes understanding another one's feelings because they have them, you sort of have to lay down your defense mechanisms and say you're entitled to having them. So sometimes we have a difficult time separating learning from experience. And if I were to do it over again, I probably would have approached that scenario differently. So my question is, things that are arising in the future, things that you go through, past lives, past circumstances, because sometimes it isn't a past life, but you run over the same circumstance that you had before. And you want to treat it differently. It may change your whole approach towards how you think or the things that you've said. How do you handle it when it's maybe completely different to everything you used to preach for or currently preach of? How do you handle that change?
Because it's part of our journey. We all have, whatever happens, we'll have the same thing happen if we choose to learn from it. So the same thing can happen again, and maybe you're more into your journey. It'll be the same situation, but a different scenario. We choose, I truly believe that we choose that. Let's say we choose it till we get it right, so to speak. So again, with certain things that you have seen that maybe you, and me too, I see where I made my mistakes, and I say to myself, and many people do, if I had the opportunity to do that again, I will do it differently. Well, we do have the opportunity to do it again. We may not even realize that because it's a different situation and scenario. But after a while, when you become aware of that, you'll say, oh my gosh, I'm in a similar situation that I was in maybe 10, 20 years from now. Now is my time to do that differently. Awareness is what's important, Freddie. It can go by you and you can have the same situation again with the same outcome. But we do have the power to change it, and we do have it coming back if it's our choice to give us another choice on how we're going to handle that situation. That's coming through to me very loud and clear. Would I have been able to answer that? No, I'm getting help with that, absolutely, and I see it very, very clearly. We get opportunities that go on again if we haven't settled it into another lifetime with a completely different scenario. We don't remember it, but we may do the same things that we did in this lifetime from the beginning when it went wrong. We learn. We're on a journey to learn, to understand more, and we choose that.
And does everybody have the ability to listen to that voice, to listen to that guide? Can everybody do it, or is it just specific people?
I believe that everybody can do it. Not everybody knows that they can do it. That's what's important. I didn't know I could do this, but I would sometimes say to myself, oh, I wish that would happen. But my wish was more than a wish. I believe I was getting help, or what I chose. And sometimes it happened. I mean, amazing things happened to me before I even understood that. But after a while, because I was stubborn in the beginning and not to understand it, again, I'll go back to my art. They said to me, paint. Well, I didn't know I could draw or paint, and suddenly I'm creating all these things. So it opened me up little by little that there is more. We choose. Our timing too is important. I was going through a lot of very difficult things, and I believe sometimes that's when we realize we have more, there's more to our life than just all these problems, because situations will appear and you'll say to yourself, well, how did that happen? Listen to that. You're getting help. Listen to it. So yes, that's my answer to that question. It kind of left me right now. It doesn't usually do that.
Well, it's interesting because it's that there's more to our lives, but we also discover that there's more to us, right?
Yes, yes, absolutely.
And so that's, well, 5 years ago I might not have been able to handle a situation, but for whatever reason today, I can work my way through it and be okay with it, whereas 5 years ago it could have brought me to my knees. Right?
And that's where we need to listen and act on our intuition, because that's very important too. We're all on a journey. Our journey continues, and I'm going to say till we get it completely right. I don't know the outcome of that, but every time we correct something that's happened in our lives, we're doing something better. Okay, so it won't hurt us. See, it can come back to us, so we can continually get hurt all the time because of that. If you're aware of that, which I am today, I'm saying to myself, I don't want this situation to happen again. Let's see what I can do to correct it. Now, I'm helping myself on my journey by saying that. It may not correct itself right away, but I'm aware of doing that. I try to bring that positivity into that problem, whatever it is. And eventually, we'll find our life goes a little bit more smoother.
Yeah.
Now, I got a question on that theme. So let's say someone were to ask you, like Tracy did, how's my employment look in the future? Am I going to have these opportunities? Sometimes we are given the pieces to make the right decision about what's going to happen in the future. Because sometimes the right job happens because you have all the ingredients of what you're looking for. You know that old saying, it's not always greener on the other side. And sometimes we make these decisions and we make the wrong decision. What's more important, getting to the end game or realizing and visualizing the parts to get there?
I'm getting immediately play the game as it unfolds. So let's go back to your situation with what you're doing, and you're very happy in that, you're learning something from that. But there may be something else. Always be open to opportunities. Especially where you're on that particular road of being positive and you're loving what you're doing. So many people hate going into work and do not like it. So they're not going to be open to new opportunities. An opportunity may come about, but it'll be the same as what they're going through in that particular job. But if you're open, more ready to all these good things happening, timing is important too. But to get to where you really want to go, you've got to accept and be positive about that, so that it'll lead to another, maybe more or just the same positive situation. You're on the right journey. That's what I'm feeling, I'm hearing. Okay.
Do you ever see anything bad when you get visions?
Yes, I do, just like everybody else, or I can see it in a dream sometimes. I go, I don't like that dream, but I try not to dwell on it. Of course, and I sometimes feel certain things, and I listen to that. I mean, even if I'm in a car and something is telling me, go another way, I will listen to that. I learned that very much from Aldo, actually, who was my guide here. So if you feel that, so go out of your way or go a different way. I don't know what the outcome would have been if I went that way, but it doesn't matter. I chose to listen to that and go in a different direction. So I do listen. Bad does come to everybody, but listen to it.
Did you ever find out what the banging was, or who that was, or what was stirring that all up on the last show?
No, but I think it was good. I don't know who it was, but I think that there were spirits, as I always do when I walk in here. There are spirits in here. And they're saying, hey, listen to me. I'm going to bang. And you're going to say, how did that happen? So now you're being aware that we're being watched over here, every one of us.
And you could hear it clear on the radio. I don't know if you looked back on the show, but you could hear it clear as day.
So they made their presence known. They wanted to say, hey, listen to me. For those of you that don't understand that, I'm going to make you understand this. So they banged, and they opened, I believe, something up there too, a little door up there, right? So it's all good. It's all good. That was cute.
Here's the question. What does the year of the water rabbit mean?
Oh, I'm honestly going to say I don't know, because I don't know. I don't know everything. I don't know what that
Year
is.
of the water rabbit.
A water rabbit.
Yeah, it's the Chinese Lunar New Year, but
Maybe it's a new, what is coming to me is a new beginning. The water rabbit, I don't know, and maybe a viewer can call in with maybe a better answer than what I'm giving, but I feel that I'm being told it's a new beginning. It doesn't matter if it's Chinese New Year or our New Year, it doesn't matter. We're all the same. It's a new beginning from what I hear.
Do you think things are opening up for new beginnings and for people to understand spirituality in a different realm?
Absolutely, they are opening up. We're getting many, many more opportunities. We are, in some ways, getting much more accepting of things than we did maybe, even what I'm doing. This was not acceptable even to put it out on the airways maybe 30, 40 years ago. They would have probably carted me off, and that's okay. But today, everything is becoming more acceptable. And again, on the flip side of that, we're also becoming very critical of things too, which is not politically correct. I understand that, but there's got to be a balance. There's got to be what they say, which is not politically correct, is true on certain things, but not everything. Just with what I'm saying, we can't get completely carried away with what I feel and say. We've got to look at it logically, handle it, and take that into balance and continue our journey. Just be aware of things, aware that there is so much more going on in this life than what we see. It's there. I mean, we just don't want to accept it, but it's there.
You think people come to us for a reason?
Absolutely they do, but we don't always see that either, which is something that maybe in our book, and I'm going to go back to the book, and I say our book because we are working on this together now, that there are many things. I feel that I'm here to help people, so, and as you do too, but with that I also have to go back into my past and my history and my family tree as far as bloodlines go. Right. So the message is that people are opening up more, but let's continue to do that.
Yeah, well, it's a part of understanding who we are, and every experience we've ever had is a piece that contributes to the whole of who we are today. And it doesn't mean we have to keep living them. It just means be aware of it, respect it, honor it for the contribution it made. And sometimes we don't even know what that contribution is until much later down the road.
Right.
And we say, oh, that's why I had to go through that.
Exactly, because I think some of the things that happened to me that were pretty traumatic in my childhood and later on, I'm going, why did I have to do that? But today, because I look at it differently, again, as I said earlier in the show, it's made me who I am. It's made me appreciate, it's made me a lot stronger. We all have these opportunities. And it seems to be that sometimes the harder your life, you seem to wake up more to this. It doesn't have to be that way. But when you, as people will say, you reached your rock bottom of everything that's going, you open up and say, help me. And you are getting help. So that's, you know, it's a blessing. I mean, it's not a blessing that you have to go through it, but it's a blessing that when you ask for help, I should clarify that you can get that help. Definitely.
Yeah, well, I think it's just the age-old story that says if you're going to get to the top of the mountain, you're probably going to have to climb over a few rocks.
Exactly.
Right?
Yes.
So
yes,
we all have to do that.
Yeah.
And what do you mean by bloodline?
Well, a bloodline, as far as what I can see, is, which we will talk a little bit in the new book about this, is what we have experienced of who we are from going back a long way back. We continue with that same bloodline, the same family, the same, I'm going to say, situations, but we're not aware of that. We stay together as a soul family. My soul family has the same bloodline as me. Friends that I meet, I can feel that sometimes because they can relate to my past. I don't remember a lot of my past. I remember one or two of my lifetimes, of previous lifetimes, but they're usually from that family, as Lynn and I have kind of worked out right now, that we have a similar, well, not similar, we have the same bloodline, as I've I mentioned to you, Dawn, and to Freddie too. This is not coincidence. We are together. There's a reason for this.
Here's the question. Are you talking Cain and Abel bloodlines?
Well, you know, I'm going to get you to answer that. I mean, because...
So bloodlines really is about lineage. It is about our family going back as far as we can trace it. Can we trace it back to a Cain and Abel type situation? Probably not, but we can trace it back far enough in many cases to understand its impact on us in the more recent past, because that's, in some cases, that's where the strongest influence is, because it's the most fresh in our mind. It's what we remember the most. Like, we remember what happened in this life more than we remember what happened in a past life, but it's when those moments hit where and it could be a trigger, it could be a synchronicity that says, oh gosh, I've done this before. You know, when and where did I do it? And so that's really the thing. And the bloodline is just is the family,
yeah, I was going to
lineage.
say that it's our lineage, our family. As when Aldo came into this life, and which we will talk about obviously in the book, he looked for me. He understood this. He was able to remember as a child, even at a year old. But he came in looking for me, and eventually he found me. I mean, I was all middle-aged by that point, but it took him a while. But we do, if it's a very significant reason that I've come in, he was there to help me with that. But that's from a specific bloodline, and I believe that we carry that on in each lifetime. I noticed a question about the studio. What was that just came up?
Do you feel the energy in the studio?
Absolutely, 100%. I feel it when I walk in here. We've discussed that. This place is a magnet, I'm going to say, and they're telling me, spirits love it. When this show comes on, or any of your shows, actually, they all accumulate. You know that. You feel that. They're telling us now. They're going, well, I'm going to wake you up a little bit more by the banging and the doors opening and everything. I mean, obviously, in my mind, they're definitely here around us. They love this show, and your other shows too, not just mine.
Sally,
Did we have a bang?
no, please, enough with the banging. Sally,
Yes.
science.
Yours? Oh, sorry.
Who knows? Oh, there were candles that turn on too. You haven't heard the worst of
I
it.
was going to remind you that wasn't there a menorah that was lit at one time and all the oil ran out and it was
It
still
stayed on for
lit?
3 days.
That's right.
So,
Candle
I
in the
mean-
back. We walked in
And it's happening here now.
turned on. Sally, you got science versus spirit, or science versus faith, because science explains what it explains, and faith doesn't. So how do you have a conversation especially with young minds today, everything seems to be scientific. And what's missing is the faith, because that's what spirit is, isn't it? How do you have a conversation about bloodlines with somebody who has a scientific mind as opposed to having a spiritual mind?
Okay, and I've thought about this too. I can only tell them by my experiences, and I say that I can teach by example. So I might give them scenarios in my life that have happened to me that are what we would call, and I also was part of that, I was unexplainable. However, they didn't leave me alone. So I was getting one thing after another. I can't make someone believe something if they don't want to. But if I can just indicate to them that this is what's happened to me, because it's happened to me, it'll open their mind a little bit. And I totally understand that. If someone's very, they're very black and white, let's say, it's hard. But if they're ready, they will. We all have these signs, but we've got to open up to it. I did. After many, many years, I just couldn't explain the things that were happening to me. It was just beyond this world. So I got to listen more.
I want to get this one before the end of the
Right,
show.
yes.
A plane crashes, 300 people die, and there's one survivor. Is that science or is it faith?
That's a difficult question. I mean, it's a good, not a good question, it's a sad question, but yes, if that one person survived, they hadn't shown, I believe, and people might say, what is she talking about? And I understand that too. If we get on a plane or we have an accident, I believe we choose our life. It's very, very hard. And I don't really, I feel a little uncomfortable saying this because there might be people that have lost people that way, and I'm sorry and I feel that pain. But if one person, in answer to that question, survives, they say, well, it just wasn't their time. There's truth in that. It just wasn't their time.
But is it science or is it faith?
It's a little of both. I mean, that person, maybe they have chosen to wake up in this lifetime, so their faith will come in with them surviving. It's complicated, Freddie, and I don't want to offend anybody because they could have lost people in an unpleasant way. But there's reasons and situations and circumstances that present themselves to us in each lifetime. I also can't explain them all. I rely very much on what I hear from spirit, and I seem to be getting the accurate answers. But it's a little more complicated sometimes. I think we're coming to the end of the show, right? Well, thank you all for listening, and I look forward to seeing you next week. Okay, and we're going to have some more of my art up there, and in a few months' time, we're going to have my new book. I believe this one is difficult to find right now, because I kind of wish that, because I've got a new one coming, and it came about. But in 3 or 4 months, we're going to have a fabulous book out there. Also, Call Me Zena at this point. I think it's the same name. Thank you. Thank you so much for listening. See you next week. Bye-bye. Coincidence or not, it's time to trust your intuition and knowings. Thank you for joining me through this journey of self-discovery and awakening with the help of my spirit guides. I'm Sally Bernard, and you can find my book, artwork, and contact through artbysallybernard.com. Join us next week. This has been Call Me Zena.